Hello, my name is Keaton Weber. I'm the Wheatland wildlife biologist. This presentation will go through all of the 2025 proposed hunting seasons within the Laramie Biologist District. We'll go through pronghorn, hunt areas 11, 34, 38, 103, and 111. Deer hunt areas 15, 59, 60, and 64. Elk hunt areas 3, 6, and 7. Bighorn sheep hunt area 19, and pheasants and wild turkey. So there's many parts to the season setting process. It starts with data collection and analysis within the fall and winter months. Then we go to regional review process where we look at that data and come up with initial proposals and thoughts for the following hunting season. We then bring out those initial thoughts and ideas to landowner meetings and garner more public feedback on how seasons went the previous year. We then take all of that in culmination to a department review where we come up with our official season proposals for the following year, and then that puts us where we're at currently, where we bring those proposals out to the public with meetings and open the official commenting period. After that period is closed, then we go to another review and analysis of that public comment. We make any final adjustments to those season proposals, and then they go to the commission in April to be ultimately approved. First, we'll look at pronghorn. The first herd we'll talk about is Chalk Bluffs pronghorn herd. This is hunt area 111 in the far southeast corner of the state. Because this herd is predominantly private land and is an interstate herd, so that means that a lot of these pronghorn move back and forth between Colorado and Wyoming, but do not move north or west because of the interstate boundaries. This herd is managed on a landowner and hunter satisfaction survey, so that is a goal of 60% or greater satisfaction from landowners and hunters. So every year we send out landowner satisfaction letters and garner hunter satisfaction from our harvest survey. This year, landowner satisfaction was 63%, and 2024 hunter satisfaction was 87%. So overall, this herd is maintaining that objective, and majority of folks are very satisfied in how this herd is being managed so far. In 2024, the fawn ratios were at 47 fawns per 100. The 5-year average is 48 fawns per 100. So this last year's production was about average to the last 5 years. Our buck ratios are at 35 bucks per 100, and our 5-year average is 42 bucks per 100. So these are currently within our recreational management strategy guidelines of 30 to 59 bucks per 100 does. Due to hunter and landowner satisfaction meeting objective goals at 60% satisfaction, we do not propose any changes to hunt area 111. We continue to have significant damage issues throughout the herd unit, so we still will propose the type 6 to continue through December 31st to mitigate some of those damage issues. Moving on to Hawk Springs pronghorn herd unit, this is hunt area 34. The Hawk Springs herd has a population objective of 6,000. The 2024 estimate was 8,400. This is likely higher than what we are seeing on the ground. This herd is still rebounding from 4 to 5 years of poor fawn production where we certainly weren't growing antelope. This objective is likely low and needs to be addressed in future years to more accommodate what the actual herd can sustain. Fawn ratios in the Hawk Springs herd in 2024 were 54 fawns per 100 does, a big increase from the previous 5-year average of 31 fawns per 100 does. We've really struggled with fawn production and survival in this herd for many years due to habitat loss and habitat changes and drought conditions. However, once those fawns reach adult age, they seem to have very good survival. Our 2024 buck ratio was 45 bucks per 100 does, and our previous 5-year average was 37 bucks per 100 does. So this is well within our recreational management strategy guidelines of managing for 30 to 59 bucks per 100 does. Although we did see that increase in fawn production this year, we still feel this herd cannot withstand an increase in opportunity. So we're staying with the status quo for the seasons with the Type 1 license and the Type 6 license. We'd like to see some more consistent years of fawn production before we start increasing licenses within this herd unit. Since 2019, we've reduced the Type 1 by 40% and the Type 6 by 96%. And we'll continue to monitor this herd until we are able to increase licenses again. Next up is the Iron Mountain pronghorn herd. This is hunt area 38. The population objective in hunt area 38 is 13,000 pronghorn. The most recent population estimate at 8,400. This herd continues to struggle with fawn production and continues to struggle to grow. However, we did see good fawn production this year, which likely is a result of a slight increase in population estimate from previous years. However, we'd still like to continue to see those increases in fawn ratios before we increase any licenses here. In 2024, we did see an increase in fawn ratios, as I mentioned, up to 60 fawns per 100 does. Up from our 5-year previous average of 45 fawns per 100 does. Our buck ratios are still within recreational management guidelines, but right at the lower limit this year in 2024 at 29 bucks per 100 does. We expect to see those buck ratios slightly decrease as we see the results of previous years' poor fawn production of not recruiting many animals into the population. So we expect to see that buck ratio lower a little bit at 29 bucks per 100 from the 5-year average of 39 bucks per 100. In 2024, hunter success was 84%. This herd is predominantly private land, so most folks that do have permission seem to have pretty good success going into their hunt. Again, similarly to other pronghorn herds in southeast Wyoming, we're proposing no changes to this herd unit. We feel we need to have more consistent fawn production over another year or two before we start increasing licenses back into this herd to get to levels that we previously have been on before these continuous years of drought. Next up is Dwyer pronghorn herd. This is hunt area 103, just north and west of Wheatland. The Dwyer herd has a population objective of 4,000. The 2024 population estimate is right at 4,100. This herd still continues to struggle with fawn production. Our 2024 fawn ratio was 29 fawns per 100, and our 5-year average is 28 fawns per 100. Much different than surrounding herd units. This herd unit still continues to struggle to get those fawns to survival to adult age. 2024 buck ratios at 29 bucks per 100 and 5-year average at 35 bucks per 100. Again, similarly to these other herds that have had poor fawn production over multiple years, we expect to see those buck ratios slowly decline as we're continually not recruiting more fawns into the herd every year. No proposed changes this year for the Dwyer herd. We've reduced the Type 1 by 56% and the Type 6 by 94% since 2019. So as we continue to have poor fawn production, we'll continue to monitor this herd and address these seasons as needed. However, we've reduced that Type 6 on the female portion of the population down to 25. We're still allowing these licenses for minimal damage concerns throughout the herd unit, and hopefully we can increase those as this herd increases in future years. But we've really done a lot in the last 5 years to reduce all harvest pressure across the herd unit. Moving on to the Meadowdale pronghorn herd, this is hunt area 11. This herd has a population objective of 5,000, the most recent estimate being 7,000. This estimate is likely inflated due to one single year of good fawn production following 4 to 5 years of very poor fawn production. So the confidence in this model estimate this year is low. We're likely much lower than 7,000 pronghorn. However, we did probably see an increase this last year in response to good fawn production in 1 year. As I mentioned, we did see an increase in fawn production here this year. Our 2024 fawn ratio at 61 fawns per 100 does, up from our previous 5-year average of 38 fawns per 100 does. So this is really promising to see. Our 2024 buck ratio is at 54 bucks per 100 does, 5-year average at 34 bucks per 100 does. So we're still within that recreational strategy guideline of 30 to 59 bucks per 100 does. Again, similarly to surrounding pronghorn herd units, we have no proposed changes here for hunt area 11. Since 2019, we've reduced the type 1 by 28% and the type 6 by 88% to correspond with those poor fawn production years, the previous 5 years. We'll continue to monitor this herd for more increases and better fawn production before we increase licenses here in hunt area 11. Moving on to deer, we have quite a few changes here throughout both Goshen Rim and Laramie Mountains mule deer herd units. First up, we'll talk about Goshen Rim. This is hunt area 15. This herd has a population objective of 20,000 mule deer. The 2024 estimate is about 6,900. This herd has been well below objective for almost 20 years. Some good news with our mule deer herds this year is we did have a big increase in fawn production. Our 2024 fawn ratio was 65 fawns per 100, up from our previous 5-year average of 49 fawns per 100. Our buck ratios continue to be within recreational management guidelines or above, and our 2024 ratios at 36 bucks per 100 and previous 5-year average of 28 bucks per 100. Our 5-year average CWD prevalence is 35% with a good sample size of 214. So here we have some pretty big proposed changes for hunt area 15. That is changing the opening date for the regular season from October 1st to October 20th and running that season through the end of October. So this shifts the season later to the end of October and reduces the length by 3 days. This comes from decades of public comment and interest to move this season to later October to hopefully increase hunter success by taking advantage of potentially colder weather patterns and more vulnerable bucks. And also as well, obviously it's getting closer to the rut and some of those bucks will begin to become more vulnerable, seeking out doe groups as we get closer to the later part of October. So ultimately, we're looking to address some public concern and comments and move this season later into October. These dates also, you'll see in the next couple slides, will align with other general hunt areas in southeast Wyoming. This is an effort also to spread out hunters so that we don't see as much hunt area hopping throughout the general firearm seasons. And this ultimately will spread out people and reduce hunting pressure on the limited public lands in southeast Wyoming, particularly with hunt area 1564 and hunt area 64. And so hopefully with these season dates the same, this will spread people out throughout the fall. We will still continue to have the type 6 license. We still have increasing amounts of doe mule deer damage on irrigated and private lands within hunt area 15. So we'll continue to have those type 6 licenses to address those damage situations. Again, those type 6 licenses are valid on private land only. Moving on to Laramie Mountains mule deer herd. This is hunt areas 59, 60, and 64. This herd has a population objective of 20,000 mule deer as well. This herd has struggled for almost 20 years as well, and most recent population estimate at 9,600. But we have been below that objective of 20,000 mule deer for almost 2 decades now. Although buck ratios have decreased slightly in 2024 to 21 bucks per 100 does, they are still within recreational management guidelines of 20 to 29 bucks per 100 does. We expected to see this slight decline in buck ratios from results of poor fawn production and low yearling buck ratios in previous years. We did see increased fawn ratios in 2023 at 69 fawns per 100 does, and then again this year in 2024 at 60 fawns per 100 does, and indicates that this herd is likely no longer declining. However, we still need to see this good fawn production for multiple years to see this herd really climb out of the hole that it's in. These high fawn ratios are likely a direct response from favorable spring moisture and mild winter conditions over the last couple of years. These favorable weather conditions also allowed for adult females to finish winter in good bodily condition and provide increased support for healthy fawns and increased probability of fawn survival. Our buck ratios are still within recreational management guidelines. However, our 3-year average of CWD prevalence is at 19%, with a really good sample size of 711 samples. So we have a pretty significant change here within hunt areas 59 and 64. And you'll see there's no changes to hunt area 60, but we're looking to reduce the season length by 5 days in hunt areas 59 and 64. This comes from multiple years of public comment to reduce these seasons and hopefully save some mature bucks for the following year. So this will reduce harvest pressure slightly, but I want to be very clear that reducing the season by 5 days will not reduce or make an impact on a population level. We need to continue to see very good fawn production over multiple years and good survival for these herds to rebound and grow. Reducing the harvest rate on the male portion of the population will not grow deer back, but it potentially could save some mature bucks within the herd unit. So we'll closely monitor this population going forward, but this is our proposal for the 2025 hunting season. Hunt area 60, we have no proposed changes here. This herd unit is quite different than 59 and 64. It has some national forests in it, so it provides a little bit more opportunity, and that season will stay status quo. Now you'll see we still continue to have type 6s in hunt areas 59, 60, and 64. We still have variable damage claims and situations throughout the herd unit where we utilize these doe licenses to address those damage situations on a case-by-case basis. And particularly in hunt area 60 also, we continue to see lower CWD prevalence within that hunt area. All the hunt areas surrounding that herd unit have higher prevalence, and it could be potentially from having sustained harvest on the female portion of the population and also harvesting bucks into November that has likely kept this prevalence at a lower rate than surrounding herd units that are a little bit different season structure. Particularly, hunt area 60 is at 9% prevalence, and the surrounding herd units are at 35%, 21%, 20%, and 14%. So that is hunt areas 59, 64, 15, and 61. The Laramie Mountains herd was one of 5 herds selected in 2022 as a focal herd. This is a really robust collaring effort that we're doing throughout these herds to better monitor survival and understand why these herds aren't performing the way they have historically. So this project includes collaring 80 does, 30 bucks, and 100 juveniles. So those juveniles are 6-month-olds at the time when they are collared. And this is happening for each herd. So we are now in our we just completed our third round of captures in November of 2024. And so we'll continue this herd for another 2 years. This is a 5-year project, and we maintain these sample sizes throughout those 5 years. This graph shows annual survival for 2024 from this focal herd project in the Laramie Mountains. So this graph on the bottom axis, on the x-axis, you'll see time from January 2024 through December 31st, 2024. And on the y-axis, you'll see percent of survival. And so you can watch these cohorts, juveniles, does, and bucks, change throughout the year. You'll notice 92% survival for juveniles. These are again 6-month-old fawns, and you'll see that that ends in May. Those collars are much smaller and don't last as long with battery life, so we keep those collars on through May and then they fall off. However, it provides really good estimate of overwinter survival for juveniles, and 92% is a great survival rate for fawns for overwinter. So that is promising to see. We also had great doe survival in 2024 at 83%. Buck survival was lower than 2023. It is at 58%. And you'll notice it was likely a little bit higher if you were to take out harvest, but we did have some bucks harvested in October, which brought that survival rate down to 58%. Part of this focal herd collar study is determining cause of death for each mortality signal that we receive from these collars. So what that means is when we receive a mortality signal, we immediately go to that location and try to determine what the cause of death was. So this first graph is cause-specific mortality results for all mortalities over the last 2.5 years. Now I want to preface, these are very preliminary. These have not been signed off by a pathologist. This is the best information we can provide right now. At the end of the project, we will have much more solid cause-specific mortality results, but we want to present these preliminary results so far. So you'll see this graph on the right has 3 different colors. The dark green color is animals that had white marrow when we investigated their death, and that means that that animal was in good healthy condition. The darker tan is animals that had red marrow. This indicates that animal was in poor healthy condition. And then the white portions, or off-white color, are animals that we did not get marrow from, so those are unknown. Overall, we've had 71 mortalities that we were able to investigate and get this information from. And you'll see it culminates hunter harvest, mountain lion predation, emaciation, coyote predation, unknown predation, disease, bobcat predation, trauma, or exposure. And you'll see predation is leading the pack, or leading the charge, I guess, as far as number of cases attributed to predation. I want to preface those also. We still have had really good survival, and likely is outcompeting these predation impacts. However, on really poor survival years or really poor fawn production years, these predations can be additive, right, and can be more impactful. But it really relies a lot on how productive and how good of survival we have for that current year. Again, this graph is for the entire project. This isn't split out by year. Now here's the same graph, but this is for just adults. So these are 2+ year olds. These would be our collared does and collared bucks. We have 31 mortalities that we investigated off of these animals, and you can see again it matches pretty similarly to the previous graph, mountain lion predation being the leading cause so far. with harvest, coyote predation, emaciation, disease, and trauma and predation unknowns as well. So we'll continue to monitor these and develop these graphs as we get more mortalities in the next coming years and finalize these results. Again, here is another graph with the same X and Y axis. This is for our collared juveniles, so our collared fawns at 6-month-old through the spring in May when those collars drop off. We've investigated 40 of these mortalities and come up with these preliminary causes of mortality on all of those investigations. Again, you'll see here coyote predation is a little bit higher than our adult and total mortality graphs. This is pretty typical of mule deer populations or deer populations in the Rocky Mountain West, where coyotes are able to obviously take advantage of those fawns a little bit easier than adults. Again, you'll see mountain lion predation also with a large number of cases, but then pretty similar to other graphs with adults and in total is emaciation, other known causes of predation, and harvest, exposure, and disease. Now, typically disease we'll see a little bit less. It's really hard to determine with juveniles, and particularly we're looking for chronic wasting disease, and typically chronic wasting disease is not in juveniles. We typically do not detect chronic wasting disease until the adult age. Moving on to white-tailed deer. This is the southeast Wyoming herd. This encompasses every deer hunt area within the Laramie region. Because our whitetail populations are really congregated on private lands, this herd unit is based on a hunter satisfaction survey with a goal of 60% or greater satisfaction. Our 2024 hunter satisfaction was 58%, just shy of our goal of 60%. Our 3-year average hunter satisfaction is 52%. Again, this is a private land management strategy. A lot of these whitetail populations congregate and spend their time in riparian areas on private lands, and we continue to manage this population based off this hunter satisfaction. We have seen hunter satisfaction slightly decline in the last handful of years due to localized outbreaks of EHD and missing age classes of mature bucks, and some areas with much lower populations of whitetails than historically. No proposed changes for any of the whitetail seasons this year within the Laramie region. We'll move on to elk. First, we'll talk about rawhide elk herd, Hunt Area 3. Because this herd is predominantly private land, it is managed off of a landowner and hunter satisfaction based objective with a goal of 60% or better satisfaction. Our landowner satisfaction in 2024 was 65%. Our hunter satisfaction was low at 35%. A lot of hunters in this area struggle with access to where the elk are, and thus our hunter satisfaction is typically lower than our landowner satisfaction. However, this herd continues to grow, and we continue to have long liberal seasons to keep this population where it is or lower. We will be reviewing the objective in the coming year, going from a satisfaction-based objective to an actual population-based objective. We will be conducting a siteability survey, a really robust aerial flight survey in May 2025 to give us a good population estimate and starting point to make that population-based objective. No proposed changes to the season structure of Hunt Area 3. However, we are proposing a change to the non-resident Region E elk quota, and that is increasing that from 600 to 1,000 licenses. This is to accommodate most of this non-resident Region E being private land, and to hopefully increase drawing odds and success in the ultimate goal of killing more elk in these populations that are expanding and causing more and more damage throughout eastern Wyoming. Here's a map of that non-resident eastern region. You can see it's on the far eastern part of the state. And again, that is an increase from 600 to 1,000. Moving on to the Iron Mountain elk herd, this is hunt area 6. This herd has a population objective of 1,800 elk. Our 2024 estimate is about 2,500 elk. You'll see a drastic decline over the last couple of years. We have implemented some really drastic harvest management with unlimited type 8 tags and cow elk harvest to hopefully bring this herd down to objective. No proposed changes within the season structure for hunt area 6, with the exception of it is included in that non-resident region E elk quota, and again that change is proposed from 600 to 1,000 licenses. We do have a collaring project going on with cow elk in hunt area 6 and southern portion of hunt area 7, where it overlaps with deer hunt area 64. This is cow elk only, 120 collars total, 60 collars in hunt area 6, 60 collars in hunt area 7. We started captures last year in 2023 and will maintain that sample until these collars lose battery. We're hoping to better understand the competition between elk and mule deer, specifically at the population level, survival, and movement data. And this is to overlap with our focal herd deer study in the Laramie Mountains. Moving on to our Muddy Mountain Laramie Peak elk herd, this is hunt areas 7 and 19. This herd's population objective is 5,000. Our 2024 estimate is about 10,400 elk. This herd has been above objective for many years now, and we continue to have long liberal seasons to increase harvest as much as possible. We have quite a bit of proposed changes for hunt area 7 within this herd unit. This graph on the right only shows hunt area 7 changes. To see hunt area 19, please see the Casper wildlife biologist presentation. Starting off on the top here, we are proposed changed for the type 1 license to be in the month of October. So that is changing from an October 15th opener to October 1st and running through the end of the month, and decreasing that license quota from 1,500 to 1,000. This license does not have an archery component tied to it. Moving down one row, you have the 7 type 1 license becoming an antlerless elk license come to December 1st. Moving down, we have a 7 type 2. This has the archery component to it and a month of November regular season date and a license quota of 1,000. And this type 2 is now valid anywhere in the herd unit. The idea is to split these hunters and get really motivated hunters in the month of October with the type 1, and then more motivated hunters for the month of November with the type 2. The concern with having the archery season with the type 1 license is that draw odds would significantly decrease for that type 1 license if the archery season was on it. So in order to combat those needs for draw percentages is to split that season into 2 licenses and allow the archery license on the type 2. That type 2 will then become an antlerless elk license for the month of December. And then we also have a change with the type 6. That is an October 1st opener and increasing that type 6 quota from 1,000 to 2,000. We also are increasing the type 8 to be valid through January. Moving on to bighorn sheep. We'll talk Laramie Peak bighorn sheep, hunt area 19. This herd is managed off of an objective based on limited opportunity. That means it comes with 3 priorities for that objective. The first being a 5-year running average of greater than 75% hunter success. That current 5-year average is 88% success. The second component is a 5-year running average of harvested rams between 6 and 8 years of age. Our 5-year average is 8 years old right now. And then lastly, we need to document at least three times more adult rams in the population than the number of licenses issued. So currently we have 10 licenses available, and we need to classify at least 30 adult rams. This year we classified 32 adult rams. No proposed changes with Bighorn Sheep Hunt Area 19. Will continue to open September 1st and close October 31st for the regular season. Moving on to game birds within southeast Wyoming. Our Springer special dates this year will be October 10th through October 31st, with youth only days on October 11th, 19th, and 25th. Our Glendo hunt will have youth only hunt days on November 2nd, 9th, 16th, 23rd, and the 30th. So there are 5 Sundays within November this year, which coincides with 5 youth days on Glendo. There are no major changes for pheasants in southeast Wyoming outside of just the normal seasonal date adjustments. We have a few slight changes for fall turkey in 2025 that is increasing the type 3 from 750 to 1,000. We added some counties for these type 3 licenses to accommodate increased damage situations throughout these counties. So in order to make those licenses available on a case-by-case basis and always be available, we wanted to increase that license quota. Slight change for the type 3 license for the spring of 2026 is proposed. That is increasing the season length for those type 3s through May 31st, and then also increasing by 100. We're seeing more and more turkey damage situations in these counties, and a longer season length and more licenses is to address those damage situations. That concludes the presentation for all of the season proposals within the Wheatland Biologist District. We really encourage everyone to submit comments on these proposals. You can submit online through the link on this page, or you can write in written comments to the Wyoming Game and Fish Department Casper office. These comments are due by April 2nd at 5 p.m. If you have any questions or concerns about any of the proposals in this presentation, please reach out. I'm more than happy to discuss them with you. My number and email are on this slide, so please reach out. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.